So again, if you haven't watched this video or if you don't remember these things about voltage and current, make sure that you do that. It probably will be on the quiz on Wednesday. Haven't written the quiz, but I would imagine that's going to be one of the big ones. Okay? So you drew a diagram of the circuit. You set up the circuit and made sure that you got it set up right. And I think that's about as far as you guys got on Friday. Is that right? Maybe you also measured or found the resistor value. If you need help with this, let me know. Hopefully, can I say one thing real quick and then I'll answer your question? Hopefully, if you did not get it, or even if you did, you wrote down the colors of the band so we can double check. If either you didn't get there on Friday or you don't remember, we can just start over. Just grab a different resistor. I'll help you read the colors if you need to in order to figure out what the value is. Go ahead.
So we're supposed to find the same one out of that pile?
That's what I'm saying. There are like 8 of each kind.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like they're all different, right? So like if you had orange, brown, there are a bunch of orange, browns in there. Yeah. But the other option for you, Jacob, is that you can just pick a new one and then just find the value of it. Okay? The goal for today is that you're going to learn how to and measure current and voltage. So we're going to talk really quickly about measuring current and voltage. You may want to write this on separate paper. You can write it on your lab if you would like as well, but I would encourage you to have this written down as well. Just a friendly reminder of what current is. Can somebody remind me of what current is? The flow of charge, is that what you said? Yeah. I'm going to say the flow of charge through a circuit. Or a part of a circuit, but all of our circuits are going to be very simple. It's just going to be a battery and a resistor. So it's going to be the flow of charge through that entire circuit. Okay? When you are measuring current, you always want the meter. So this thing that you're going to see is called a multimeter because it can measure multiple different things. You're going to use it to measure both current and voltage. Okay? We are going to set it to the current setting, and in that case, we call it an ammeter. So we're going to wire the ammeter. It's called an ammeter because it measures things in amps. And amperes are a measure of what? Current, right? In series with the resistor. You're going to wire the ammeter in series with the resistor. You remember hopefully from Thursday that a circuit that is wired in series means that it is one loop. Wiring things in series mean that you've got one loop. And we'll say all of the electrons will go through the resistor and the meter. When you're building a circuit, you can, probably the easiest way to do it is to follow along where electrons are going to go. So we start at the battery, because that's where they get lifted up, they get extra energy, and we're just going to follow it around. So from the battery, we're going to go this way, up through. This little box is really supposed to be a resistor. I just didn't, paint shop it to give it a resistor squiggly. Okay, so all of the electrons go up, they go through the resistor, and then they can't go straight down here. Do you see how there's no wire? There's no way for them to go down. So what are they going to do? They're going to go through the lead. They're going to go into the meter, come out of the meter, and then return to the battery. Okay? So all of the electrons are going to follow one loop into the meter and back out of the meter and back to the battery. Okay? You're going to wire it in series. My best recommendation for you in terms of how to wire it in series is to set up the circuit with the batteries, or the battery, the resistor, and wire. And then remove a wire connecting to the resistor and replace with the meter. So you're going to set up the circuit with the battery, resistor, and wire. So that would be like this. Okay, you've got your wire in there. Then you're going to take your wire out and then put in your meter instead. When you are using your ammeter, two very important things that you need to make sure you do. Okay? The very first thing, before you try to make measurements, the very first thing is to make sure that this lead is connected to the A port. A for amperes, A for measuring current. Okay? So make sure that you're, we'll say, wired to the A port. That's number one, most important thing. Number two is to make sure that the dial is pointed at the one that says A and then has a straight line, and it might have a dotted line underneath it. This says that we're measuring current in a direct current circuit. The thing we don't want is the one with the little sine curve on it. Okay? Then you hook it up and then you go. That's how you measure current. What else are we going to measure besides current? What is it? What is it? Voltage. Yeah. All right, let's talk about voltage. How do we wire things? Well, we need to find out what voltage is first, right? Yeah. What do you remember from Friday? Yep, it's going to establish the E field. And it also, we could say, gives the electrons energy to dissipate. Dissipate. I think that's right. Okay. There's 1.5 volts difference between one side of the battery and the other. It's got to lose 1.5 volts of energy per charge from one side of the resistor to the other. So all we're doing is measuring the potential energy of the electron at one point versus the potential energy of the electron at another point. Okay? Potential energy here versus potential energy here. When we measure voltage, we're going to wire the meter in parallel. Okay? To check. Oops, let me see if I can spell here. The energy lost across the resistor. In order to do that, we're going to wire the circuit with the batteries or battery, the resistor, and the wire, and then place, oh my goodness, this is so annoying. The ends of the meter on either side of the resistor. Two things you want to be aware of is that the port is up here this time. Might not be up, but it's the one that's measured voltage. Okay? And the dial needs to be over here, right on this one. So the very first thing you're going to check is that it's, we'll say wired to the voltage port, and that the dial is on the V with the straight lines. Okay. In both cases, you need to make sure that the wiring is correct. And the last thing that I want to tell you, because I don't want you to mess it up, okay, is that you always start at a high value for the measurement and then decrease until you get a reading. Okay, I'll show you what that means with the meters in just a minute. But if you do not do this, if you do not ensure that it's wired correctly, that the dial is on correctly, or that you're starting at the high values, you will blow the fuse of the meter. Okay, it will break the meter. Okay, so don't do it. You need to make sure that you're paying attention every single time. Okay, so today when you're doing this, you're going to look at your lab. You're going to measure the current. You're going to measure, write down the value of the current and convert it to regular amps, not milliamps. And measure the voltage. And then check in with your data and see if your data is making sense. It says right here, if the values are not the same, then check with your teacher. I'm not upset with you. I just want to make sure that you know what you're doing, because if you're screwing it up now, then it's going to be really frustrating if you mess all of this up. You with me there? Okay. In part 2, you're then going to add some batteries and you're going to get more and more and more. I did not have this on your original sheet, so you may want to make a note here that in this chart, the first row is intended to get your data from above. So it's going to be 1 battery for that first row, and then you'll do 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So you don't have to do 1 again. You're going to do 2, 3, and 4. Of course, if you have questions, you're going to ask. You need to do a graph by hand this time on graph paper, and this graph and the analysis is due by Thursday at the latest. If you finish it today, obviously I will take it, but you may give it to me later as well. Okay.